This video is going to be about how and why I believe that these people, okay, Fatma'am, Hatman is what he calls himself. I call him Fatma'am. Adonis, Royce, JJ, Mersh, why I believe these people are on the autism spectrum. Now, before I start this video, I want to explain this video is not to admonish or belittle or hurt people that are on the autism spectrum. When I worked in mental health, I worked with people on the autism spectrum. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings that has autism when I make this video, and I want to be very clear with that. I also want to be clear with this, okay? This gentleman, Hat Man as he calls himself, I call him Fat Ma'am because he looks like an obese woman, an obese elderly woman is how he's built. But he basically accuses me of threatening his children, which I never did. He actually admits that I never threatened his children, but he says, if you threaten my children, I'm going to kill you, and then explains a very detailed plan as to how he's going to kill me. So what I want to make sure that you understand, even if I did threaten his children, which he admits that I didn't threaten his children, but even if I did threaten, or even if I did talk about his children in some way, that does not give him the legal right to threaten to murder me and then lay out a detailed plan as to how he is going to murder me. Okay? What that gives him the right to do, being that he's in England, is the right to call the authorities on me. Not the right to lay out a detailed plan as to how he plans on murdering me. Okay? So let's go. Let's see this right now. Let's see what he has to say.
To people's kids, James. That's the only thing you...
I've never gone after his kids, and to be honest, I don't even know for sure that he has kids. He could just be saying that. This is the equivalent of calling somebody a Nazi just to justify beating them half to death with a padlock, or calling somebody a communist just to beat them half to death with a padlock. This is the typical nonsense. I can get away. This is why they call people pedophile, pedophile, pedophile. Because if they call somebody a pedophile, oh, well, then you can justify doing anything you want to that person because that person's been dehumanized. So what they're saying is, if you go after my kids, it's an act to dehumanize, just like calling somebody a Nazi, calling somebody a racist, or calling somebody a communist. This is how they dehumanize their victims to justify in their viewers' minds the acts that their viewers take, such as slashing my tire or, threatening me, things of that nature, or how he justifies in his mind and in his viewers' minds the fact that he's going to lay out a detailed plan as to how he is going to murder me, how he plans on murdering me. So let's watch.
Haven't done yet is go after people's kids. But rest assured, if you go after my kids, James, I will be on a plane to Philadelphia, and I will be at your door, and I will finish you for good. Kids, James, I will be on a plane to Philadelphia, and I will be at your door, and I will finish you for good. Kids, James.
He is literally telling me by name that he's going to murder me. Listen to this again.
I will be on a plane to Philadelphia, and I will be at your door, and I will finish you for good. Kids, James, I will be on a plane to Philadelphia, and I will be at your door, and I will finish you for good. One person tried that before. I found them. I gave him a very simple warning. You got your choice. If I hear one more word from you, one more word.
Mind you, he never heard one word from me because, as he admits, I never said anything about his kids. Listen here, where he states unequivocally that I didn't say anything about his kids.
It's James. That's the only thing you haven't done yet is gone after it's James. That's the only thing you haven't done yet.
One more time, he admits that I've not done that.
It's James. That's the only thing you haven't done yet is gone. And then there's going after people's kids, James. That's the only thing you haven't done yet is... And then there's going after people's kids, James. That's the only thing you haven't done yet is...
One more time, and this is him admitting that I haven't gone after his kids. However, he's using me going after his kids as a justification to lay out a detailed plan of murdering me. One more time.
And then there's going after people's kids, James. That's the only thing you haven't done yet is going after people's kids. But rest assured, if you go after my kids, James, I will be on a plane to Philadelphia, and I will be at your door, and I will finish you for good. One person tried that before. I found them. I gave them a very simple warning. You got your choice. If I hear one more word from you, one more word, you're going to get a knock at your door, and you better pray to God it's the cops, because if it's me, the cops are going to have to come and take me away. That was the choice, James. Go after. So if you want to escalate to that level, I'll be on a plane to Philadelphia within 48 hours. If you want to escalate to that level, I'll be on a plane to Philadelphia within 48 hours. If you want to escalate to that level, I'll be on a plane to Philadelphia within 48 hours. Guarantee you. If you want to escalate to that level, I'll be on a plane to Philadelphia within 48 hours. Guarantee you. If you want to escalate to that level, I'll be on a plane to Philadelphia within 48 hours. Guarantee you. And I'm pretty sure there's a few people in here who would quite happily provide me with an alibi. Or possibly. And I'm pretty sure there's a few people in here who would quite happily provide me with an alibi. And I'm pretty sure there's a few people in here who would quite happily provide me with an alibi. And I'm pretty sure there's a few people in here who would quite happily provide me with an alibi. And I'm pretty sure there's a few people in here who would quite happily provide me with an alibi. And I'm pretty sure there's a few people in here who would quite happily provide me with an alibi. Or possibly a firearm or two.
So mind you, he stated unequivocally that I did not threaten his kids. I haven't done that, but yet he's saying, if you threaten my kids, I'm going to murder you, and here is a detailed plan as to how I am going to murder you and how I am going to get away with it. Okay? There's no legal justification to literally tell somebody that you're going to murder them, then lay out a detailed plan as to how you're going to murder them. Okay? This is a crime. He committed a crime. This is a crime. This is international terrorism. So let me move on and paint the picture as to why I think these people have autism spectrum disorder. This was an email that Mary got from somebody calling themselves Fuck People 1488. And what you'll notice, notice they call themselves Fuck People 1488. I will cover, now 1488 is a reference, it's an alt-right reference. And I'm going to show you how there is literally, and it's proven that there is an over-representation of people with autism in the alternative right community. Now, this person is threatening, and I'm going to show you why I believe this person is Adonis. So they're saying, you effing bitch, you have no idea how people with autism are. I will make sure every one of my friends will epically destroy your e-begging life. These are things that Adonis accuses her of on a regular basis. And this is this person saying, I will effing destroy you, so you are on the side of the street starving, you're effing done, whatever. So what I want to point out, and I'm going to show this later, about why I believe this is Adonis, what makes me think it's Adonis, and I'm going to show you certain traits that Adonis, certain lack of coordination, certain special interests that he has, that make him appear to be on the spectrum. So I'm going to move on now. So these people use the term spurge a lot, and I'm going to get into why that's important. So they appear to be either self-deprecating people with autism, or they seem to be people that are self-hating people with autism. Maybe both. But what spurge means is to wax obsessive on a subject of interest, often to the point of annoying those around you. Okay, let me move on.
Spurg. Spurg. Spurg.
So, spurg is a slang, derogatory, offensive, and sometimes reclaimed It's synonymous with Aspergian, a person with Asperger's syndrome, what we call Asperger's syndrome, but they're called Asperger's. So sometimes it's called Spurge.
Spurg.
Okay. So what you need to understand is that sometimes people with this disorder will use it like African Americans use the N-word as a sort of acknowledgement of them having it and reclaiming the word, not as an offensive thing, but as sort of a, like, being proud of it. Now, remember I explained that people on the autism spectrum are greatly overrepresented in the alternative right and far right politics. So the term weaponized autism is frequently used on extremist platforms. Okay, they analyzed 711 posts spanning from 2018 to 2019 and filtered for variations on the term weaponized autism. Results, the term used mainly by non-autistic. How do they know they're non-autistic Gab users? They're probably autistic. Okay, it refers to exploitation of perceived talents and vulnerabilities of weaponized autists, described as all-powerful masters of technology who are devoid of social skills. Conclusions: the term weaponized autism is simultaneously glorified and derogatory for some autistic people. The partial acceptance offered within this community, meaning the alt-right community, may be preferable to a lack of acceptance offered in society. Now, if you look at popular figures in the alt-right, Ramsey Paul, if you look at him, I've worked with people with autism. He seems to be on the spectrum, and I respect Ramsey Paul. If you look at Salty Cracker, I would say he's probably on the spectrum. I would go so far as to say Stixhammer is on the spectrum. But also, if you look at Mersh, if you look at JJ, if you look at Adonis, if you look at Fatma'am, these people also appear to be on the spectrum, and I will show why I believe that as this video unfolds. Does Donald Trump have autism? Donald Trump recently sparked rumors that he could have some form of developmental disorder, particularly Asperger's syndrome. A netizen named Claire Foster claimed to have seen some obvious signs that suggest that the POTUS could be on the autism spectrum. Reading the candidate Donald Trump and his sometimes puzzling and obnoxious behavior, whose obvious intelligence, I don't think he's that obviously intelligent, but he appears to be accompanied by his supposed intelligence appears to be accompanied by a lack of awareness and empathy. She is saying that she is beginning to wonder if he does not have some form of Asperger's syndrome. She wrote in a follow-up post, Foster continued to suggest that the president of the United States could be mentally ill. I think that goes without saying. The netizen is convinced that Trump is being handicapped by a genetic condition that is made evident by his behavior. The majority of people with Asperger's are highly intelligent and lead very successful lives. In the challenging position he now finds himself, we should all pray for him, she wrote. However, no one else supported Foster's observations. Now, this is what's so horrifying regarding the one, particularly Adonis, who is obsessed with firearms, claims to have firearms, has bragged about having firearms, has personally threatened to shoot me on a number of occasions, and has also stated that he is on a powerful antidepressant drug known to make people homicidal and suicidal, that drug being Zoloft. So, autism and school shootings, overlap of autism and general psychopathy. Okay. So, social relationships, blah, blah, blah. First one I believe is about Adam Lanza. Yes, it's about Adam Lanza. Okay, narrow interests. Now, tell me this doesn't sound like Adonis. He would spend hours playing with Legos with his brother and indeed invented his own board games. He wrote violent stories. Look how Adonis acts out extremely aggressive, gory, violent depictions with his animated figures on his podcast. Okay? He was fascinated with guns. Adonis is clearly fascinated with guns and has threatened me with firearms, has stated that he was going to shoot me on a number of occasions. He was obsessed with the Second World War. Look at how many times Adonis references things about the Second World War. Okay, he became preoccupied with mass murder. I think you can see from the way Adonis depicts things with his animated little figures where he plays out his pretend puppet show of violence that he is clearly obsessed with violent behavior, gore, etc. He created his own private autistic world. Look how Adonis has created literally what he calls cartoon world. Okay, he loved high-tech matters. Adonis admits to loving high technology. Okay, the mother tried to fit in with his special interests, for example, taking him to the shooting range. She did her best. His interests in violence was best seen in his essays and online. Again, look at Adonis, how he plays out his violent behavior online. And I'm going to show you how he threatens a mentally ill woman. Okay, and I'm also going to show you his lack of coordination, sensory issues and motor issues. He suffered from sensory overload, which of course made school much more difficult for him. Showed hypersensitivity to physical touch that tags had, blah, blah, blah. I don't agree with this. He had hypersensitivity to smell and could smell things that the average person would be unable to smell. In relation to visual hypersensitivity, color graphics upset him. He probably also had clumsiness with a stiff, lumbering gait. I'm going to show you in a video Adonis's bizarre lack of coordination. It's a degree of uncoordination that is bizarre. I've taught autistic children karate. I can tell a little bit about their lack of coordination, but I'm going to move on now. So I want to point out how gender dysphoria and autism spectrum disorder kind of go hand in hand. Now, you'll remember that Fatma'am, took credit for posing as a 20-year-old girl in order to obtain, and seducing me, to obtain nude photographs of me so that he could masturbate to them. Okay? Now, I want you to understand that because this is a clear sign of gender dysphoria. He is clearly uncomfortable with his gender dysphoria, which is why he overcompensates here and there and says things that he says occasionally, lashing out because he can't come to terms with his own homosexual tendencies. So there is increasing clinical evidence of an association between gender variability, gender dysphoria, and autism spectrum disorder. This seems to be a two-way relationship. A person with gender dysphoria is more likely to be diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and vice versa. In youth, it is important to distinguish whether the presented symptoms are a manifestation of autism spectrum disorder or focus on special interests or symptoms of co-occurring gender dysphoria. The reason why this is important is a lot of autistic people have, well, all autistic people really have special interests. So they want to make sure that you're not removing the child's reproductive organs or putting the child on powerful, life-altering, health-altering, disease-causing hormones simply because they may have a special interest in gender dysphoria and not actually have gender dysphoria. 10 symptoms of autism: emotional sensitivity, fixation on particular subjects or ideas, linguistic oddities, social difficulties, problems processing physical sensations, devotion to routines, development of repetitive or restrictive habits, dislike of change, focus on self, unusual movement patterns. I will show you some of these as I go on in this video. So this is my playlist for Terror Spurge, which was a documentary that a gentleman named Porcelain did about Mersh. Now, if you look at Mersh clearly seems to have issues with social skills, issues with coordination, issues with a lot of things, and seems to me anyway to probably be on the autism spectrum. Let me know what you think in the comments section. But this is a playlist that I made. It's hundreds of videos about Mersh. Please feel free to check it out. It's going to be linked in the description. And I want to know what you think. Do you think Mersh is on the autism spectrum? I want you to take note of the gentleman on the top, known as Adonis. I want you to take note of his bizarre coordination, his lack of coordination, his bizarre facial the way he presents his face. And I also want you to take note that he is literally threatening to harm a mentally ill woman. Mind you, that this is taking place. Now, Adonis has taken back that he accused Mary of committing a crime, but what you need to take into consideration is this video is him outlining how he is saying that Mary is committing a crime falsely. He's falsely saying that Mary committed a crime to try and turn the public against her, to try and get the public to harm her, and he's threatening to harm her. But look at how bizarre his lack of coordination is and things like that. And this is the man that's obsessed with firearms. He's obsessed with gore, obsessed with violence, acts out violence with his animated picture show on his podcast. And you're going to see that he is a very bizarre individual that is going to threaten to harm a woman. Now, what I also want you to note, take note that he mentions the fuck people. You will notice that in that threatening email that Mary got, the fuck people were mentioned. Okay, the fuck people are what he refers to his tribe of people on the internet that he has created. Now, I don't know if they're all on the spectrum or if this is just the tribe of people he made up as a substitution for the friendships and the camaraderie that he can't have in real life due to his spectrum disorder. But let's see what he has to say here.
Took the fucking fall for you, you stupid bitch. Don't you ever lie upon the fuck people again. I will come to the real world and plant a boot square in your ass.
Well, she
took the...
Let's watch this again. Please, let's watch this again so that you can understand that he is threatening a woman. Now, he's saying he will come to the real world because he considers himself to live in cartoon world. So an imaginary autistic world that he has created for himself where he can be like a god in his own pretend cartoon world where he controls life and death of the animated people that he's created.
Fucking fall for you, you stupid bitch. Don't you ever lie upon the fuck people again. I will right now because you let this fucking ped took the fucking fall for you, you stupid bitch. Right now because you let this fucking ped took the fucking fall for you, you stupid bitch. Don't you ever lie upon the fuck people again. Bitch. Don't you ever lie upon the fuck people again. Bitch. Don't you ever lie upon the fuck people again.
Please take note of that reference, the fuck people.
Bitch. Don't you ever lie upon the fuck people. Bitch. Don't you ever lie upon the fuck people again. Bitch. Don't you ever lie upon the fuck people again. I will...
He is going to threaten to come to the real world and do her harm now. So he's saying that he's going to come from his imaginary autistic world, cartoon world, into the real world to harm her.
Come to the real world and plant a boot square in your ass. Well, again. I will come to the real world and plant a boot square in your ass. Again. I will come to the real world and plant a boot square in your ass. Well, again. I will come to the real world and plant a boot square in your ass.
So let's talk about Fatma'am's fixation. Okay, so he's fixating on Mary, he's threatening Mary, but his real fixation is on me. Here he's fixating on me, 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 fixating on me. Okay, now I'm going to show you something very interesting. What about autism and stalking behavior? Have you ever considered that? Well, apparently, the Journal of Forensic Psychiatry and Psychology has. Okay, so the prevalence of autism spectrum disorders, ASD, is increasing, and the correlates of involvement of this population in the criminal justice system have been reported. People with ASD have specific deficits, okay, not gifts, deficits, okay? So like when Greta Thunberg says she can't see nuance or she can't see gray, that's not a good thing. That's an inability to see reality on reality's terms, to see reality as reality is, and to only see extremes. So the people with autism spectrum have deficits such as difficulty in social communication and behavior, impulsivity, misinterpretation of rules, obsessions, restricted interests, increasing their vulnerability to becoming victims and offenders. Herein, they report the case of a 40-year-old male, a high-functioning autistic male, accused of stalking, and that the paper highlights the clinical and forensic challenges when assessing patients with ASD prosecuted for stalking behaviors. So I think it's very clear that Fatma'am is a stalker. He's stalking me, he's stalking Mary, and I'm going to show you how it's very clear that Adonis is a stalker. I think it's also very clear that both of these people suffer from autism spectrum disorders. So I want to be clear that you understand, this is the man, Hat Man as he calls himself, that posed as a 20-year-old woman to get nudes from me so that he could pleasure himself to those nudes. So we're going to cover this right now. So again, let me show you. This is him talking. This is him obsessing over Mary, fixating on Mary, fixating on Mary, fixating on Mary. But his true fixation is me, the guy that he is sexually obsessed with. The guy that he can't come to terms with the fact that he has gender dysphoria, he has these homosexual tendencies. He really needs to leave me alone. I'm not homosexual. He needs to understand that I'm not homosexual. He needs to be honest with himself about his homosexuality and perhaps, I don't know, find a guy that is homosexual and go bother him. So he's obsessed with me, he's obsessed with me, he's obsessed with me, he's obsessed with me. This goes back to the ASD and gender dysphoria. Obsessed with me, 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 obsessed with me again. Oh, what do you know? What do you know? Me again, because that was sent to me. Look at him talk about me because he can't get enough me. He's obsessed with me because I am the object of his infatuation. I am the object of his obsession. I am the object of his fixation. He cannot stop. He will harass Mary. He does harass Mary, but that's only to help the other gentleman that he works in tandem with against Mary. It's a group of stalkers. It's a spurge-spiracy. It is a conspiracy against ASD people that I believe the reason why is because what's going on is they weren't accepted by society, so they formed their own thing. Have you ever wondered why the alt-right refers to non-alt-righters as normies? Did you ever wonder that? I think we know why now. Let's take a look at Adonis Paul's community tab and his harassment and obsession with Mary. Obsessed with Mary. Obsessed with Mary. Fixated on Mary. Fixated on Mary. Notice that he said, fuck people. Notice, I pointed that out. Obsession with Mary. Fixated on me. And I'm going to show you something. Fixated on me. Fixated on me. Fixated on Mary. Fixated on me. Fixated on me. Fixated on Mary. Fixated on me. Fixated on me. Fixated on me. Okay, he fixated on Mary, fixated on Mary, fixated on Mary, fixated on Mary. Okay, fixated on Mary, fixated on Mary, fixated on Mary. There he's fixated on me again. Okay, fixated on me. Okay, so I'm going to talk real quick. I'm going to pause this. Fixated on me, fixated on Mary, 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 fixated on Mary. Okay, fixating on Mary, fixating on Mary, fixating on Mary, fixating on me, fixating on me, fixating on me, fixating on me, fixating on Mary, fixating on Mary, fixating on Mary, fixating on Mary, fixating on me, fixating on Mary, 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 fixating on Mary. Okay, fixating on me, fixating on me. Fixating on me. Okay. So I think we can clearly say that it's beyond a reasonable doubt, I think, that these people probably have a bit of an obsessive issue. They're clearly stalking, harassing, and threatening people. They're clearly committing crimes over the internet, threatening people with firearms. As Fatma'am clearly threatened me with firearms, verbally threatened me with firearms, whereas Adonis only threatened me in community posts. But you see, these people are clearly obsessive, clearly fixated on different people throughout the internet, and are clearly threatening and participating in criminal behavior. It's very concerning, being that they've doxed my address, they know where I live, they've threatened to kill me, and they've laid out a plan, a detailed plan as to how they want to kill me, live on a podcast. And they've had people come over my apartment, as I've shown in other videos. They know who came over my apartment. And this is very concerning, I think. It's a very concerning thing. They have people local that they use to come over my place and harass me, and they've had somebody slash my tire. This is a very concerning situation. And that's all for this video.